pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Cole.
Here.
Councilmember Schweer.
Here.
Councilmember Wong.
Here.
Councilmember Nordby.
Here.
Mayor Monge.
Here. Can I get a move to adopt the agenda, please? So moved. So moved, Councilmember Cole.
Second.
Second, Councilmember Schweer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Consent agenda?
Thank you, Mayor. Consent agenda. Item A, July 18th, 2023 workshop minutes. Item B, July 18th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. Item C, July 18th, 2023 HRA meeting minutes. Item D, July 18th, 2023 closed session minutes. Item E, general claims of $3,957,732.85. Item F is HRA claims of $29,231.78. Item G is ordinance amending the Title 7, Chapter 72, State Statute 72-07, or .07, parking prohibited. Item H is ordinance amending city code to body yard establishments. Item I is special event permit, Window World Veteran Fundraiser, August 18th, 2023. Item J, special event permit, American Legion Corn and Brat Feed, August 26th, 2023. Item K is special event permit, VFW, POW, and MIA Remembrance Walk on September 21st, 2023. Item L is Silver Lake Muralist Agreement. Item M, resolution accepting donations for July of 2023. Item N is building permit report for July of 2023. Item O is declaration of equipment surplus. Item P is management service agreement for municipal recreation facility with the city of North St. Paul and Triple Crown Batting Cages, Inc. And item Q is fire relief booyah use of payment system agreement.
Thank you. Anybody have anything they pull? Yep.
I would like to pull item O.
Okay.
And I would like to pull item P.
And I would like to pull item D. All right, next, the meeting's going to be open to the public for 3 minutes, please, per person. David Nelson? Am I doing right? Missing something?
No, our timekeeper.
Okay.
Our timekeeper's on
All right, thank you.
You got it.
Okay.
David Nelson at 2574 East 4th Avenue, North St. Paul.
I'm sorry.
Hang on, David.
I guess I forgot to, after we pulled it.
Yeah, after we pull the items, we still need to approve the remaining.
Oh, yes, Remembrance approve the contained consent. Somebody approve?
So moved.
So move. Councilmember Cole?
Second.
Councilmember Schweer? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for the reminder.
I think there's a new tally sheet going.
All right, David?
Okay. David Nelson, 2574 East 4th Avenue. The survey, park survey, that was great, but not many people knew about it. I printed off 85, I handed out, I got back 79. And that, one Saturday, I sat down at Southwood, and as the people will come in with their dogs, people come in to look at the wildlife and that. I said, would you mind filling it out? I had probably 7 people on the picnic table at one time that was filling these out. I went back Sunday, outhouse was gone. It went up in smoke. And that, so, and then I finished up on Sunday, there was 40 people totally, just those 2 days. But the other days, I went around to the houses where I saw the people out in their yards, and stopped and asked them, do you know about the survey? They says, no. On the utility bill, there's a clear spot right there. I paid my bill, I just looked at it. Sure, you have to go across and look at the numbers. Just put a red box in there. Park survey, just pick it up at City Hall. You know, that way you're not paying for extra paper or anything in there. It's just a red box with that in there. Okay, the other thing is Southwood. I handed everybody copies. The very first page, most of the people were complaining about the trails, no wood chips and that. And we had, when I was on the park commission, Keith was working here at the time, Sostowski and that, and there was one lady wanted second grind chips. The city, very nice, sent her a letter. If you would mindly donating $1,500, this is what it costs for second grind chips. We didn't hear from her. Second grind chips will not last. They go in the ground, they decay, they rot. First grind chips, I got those for nothing. Through Victoria Reinhardt, I had 2 semis. And Brian and Ron and all those guys, they all helped. We would spread them with a spreader. It's 5.5 feet, and then the city would mow 2 feet on each side, excuse me, and that. But I mean, it's, I don't think it's a gem in the city. Let's not lose it. We're the only city with a small nature preserve, because out of the surveys that they filled out at the park, 11 people were from Oakdale. And the people from Oakdale, that says, why do you come here? I says, you got one over there. They says, you got wood chips. People that's got hip problems, knee problems, there you go. And that, but no, and the wood chips, Victoria Reinhardt got them for nothing. And also, as the people are quit volunteering, how about the goats for clearing the buckthorn out? Maplewood got the goats, plus they got the grant, so it didn't cost Maplewood anything, because I went to 2 of their meetings and I asked them all about it. I brought it down here, I gave it to the people on that side, the information. That's the last I heard of it.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. John Schmall?
John Schwall, 2750 Chisholm Avenue. Just a comment on the last meeting where you had father and daughter appear here and talking about the problem with water coming into there with not a big rain and having a problem. Also was here was Sean Rivet, who the city decided to turn down the purchases of his house. Money was available from the DNR. But anyway, just listening to their stories bring back some memories to me that you can be put through holy hell in a rain when you've got a problem like that. I had the problem. 30 years I had the problem up on Chisholm. If you go where my house is located, you would say, what kind of a water problem did you have? And I really feel sorry for these people. Really, you gotta walk a mile in their moccasins and know what a rainstorm means to them. They don't sleep. I didn't sleep during this period every time it rained. I never knew when it was coming over the top and between my house and the house to the west and having it totally washed down to the foundation. Anyway, I would hope that you give them some consideration because they're in a living hell. Plus the fact, both of those homes were foreclosures. So there was no declaration as to a water problem ever in that area for those houses. And I thought for myself with the water problem that I had, I was paying on a house I couldn't sell because I'd have to declare that water would come over the top and possibly wash out my basement and the house would fall in. What's a house like that worth? But anyway, one day, Scott Dudek appears and he says, John, we're going to put in a right size sewer pipe. And they did. And now I can sleep at night. So I don't know why I got taken care of, but I'm really appreciative of the fact that I was taken care of. And when it rains, I sleep like a baby because I have no worry. And I can, when my house is sold, they don't have to say there's a water problem with this house because there isn't. And that treatment should be given to all people who have water problems in this city, but evidently not. Think about it.
Thank you, John. Dennis? Yep. That means we're going to discuss it after. It's not, the consent is everything that passes, so it was pulled.
Thank you. Dennis Bartholomew, 2050 North Margaret Street, North St. Paul. I got a few things I wanted to cover. One is, you guys probably saw my email last week asking why I wasn't on the agenda. Did you see that? Nobody answered me. I don't know why, but it seemed a lot of people that emailed in weren't getting answers either, other than, I think, Councilwoman Schweer, you did a few people. But in the last 3 weeks, people were getting ones that saying this has been resolved. I don't know where that came from. When I asked about it, I was told I was wrong, but then found out that supposedly a gal in the office put this out, and I don't know that she would have been responsible for doing that. So I'm not sure where that happened. Couple of things. I came up here last time, and I think people had the impression I'm making a lot of money off these batting cages, that I'm some kind of, this is what I almost feel like. I'm a criminal, I'm a scammer, Seriously, I mean, that's how I kind of felt. I can tell you in 30 years, and they asked something about records, I've never filed a W-2. Because I think prerequisite is you gotta make a profit or get paid for it. I don't. During the pandemic, I wrote a check for $3,000 to keep the place open for 2 months. That I haven't paid back. It isn't what I do. The money I do make, and I've told you this before, and there's people out there that know what I do with that money that I give to charities. At the end of the year, what's left goes into gift certificates. They go out to people. Over the years, I've given so many things. I brought this up as, these are letters just from the last few years. And there's hundreds of these. That's the sound system at the baseball field I paid for. Police department is in there where I gave them a $500 check for their motorcycle years back. And it goes on and on. But those are things I like to do. The toughest one I ever had that I don't even like to talk about is a woman sent me a letter thanking me for making her son's day. She asked for a donation. What I did is offer to give her the whole building for a day. They brought in all her friends and relatives. All the money went to help this young boy who had cancer. She wrote this letter saying she never seen her son that happy with all the trial and tribulations they've been through. What was sad, she wrote it after he passed. Those are the things that you find out, what you're all about. So, I started this thing back there in 1993, and you should have got emails from a few different people. Of course, Mike King's one of them. Leon Lilly, did you guys see that one? Betty McCollum. They were part of the original thing. They were the ones that helped push this thing through. They wanted it done. And if you read the letter, they can kind of tell you who I am a little bit. And I hope that helped. And all I'm asking is, you know, we're talking about a contract here, and I would ask that, can we just leave this thing alone for 5 to 7 years? I'll be done. And then you got 50 years with that building probably to do whatever you want. You want to rent it, you know, and I think Councilwoman Wong, you mentioned about me getting somebody in to maybe take over. I'd work on that. There can be money made if I don't do the things I do, you know. So somebody could, you know, and I would work on that, if that's what you would want. But after that, I'm 72. I mean, I'll make it to that long, who knows? I feel good, but we hope that I do. I ask you to consider that and keep that in mind, and, you know, just thank you for your time in that. It's been a trying time for me and my family, and pretty gut-wrenching to have to go through this, you know, knowing what I've done. I know my legacy. I know what I've done in the city. A lot of people do, a lot of people didn't, because I never talked about it. So I feel proud of what I've done, and I'll leave it at that. And thanks for your time, okay? Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Carrie, please.
I'm Carrie Blease. I live at 2887 Lake Boulevard. And I want to say thank you to Councilmember Cole, Councilmember Schweer, Councilmember Wong, Councilmember Nordby, and the mayor. I thank you guys. It's a hard job. Okay, you get a little stipend. Does that really make up for it? No, you put in a lot of hours, a lot, on behalf of all the residents of North St. Paul. Hard decisions. What's best for the city? What's best for the residents? How do you make those decisions? I don't envy that. And I really, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for doing this job on behalf of all of us. There. I'm done. I give the rest of my minutes to those other people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, let me check my check marks. We got everybody. I'll never say that again, Carrie.
That was a good one. Touche. Touche.
That's fun. All right, thank you all.
So no public hearings. Next up is city business action items and recommendations. First up is the ordinance number 821, amending Title 13, Chapter 130 of the North St. Paul City Code concerning public smoking of hemp and cannabis products. What this does is it prohibits smoking in public for the smoked cannabis, flower, cannabis products, hemp plant, and hemp-derived consumer products in the public places. That's the gist of it, and by passing this, it gives the police the ability to enforce that ordinance by just a petty misdemeanor if people do that in public. If you have any further questions, I was going to turn this over to City Attorney Jack, and he can answer lots of questions on this, if you have them.
Brian, while you're still talking about this, has this been endorsed by Phil? Is he happy with how it's written? Do you know?
Yes.
Okay.
And so when there were two options when this first came out, and a lot of cities, the most strict one was not only the smoking and the vaping of this, but also the consumables. The issue that police were finding is, you know, people could call in that kids are in the park and they're eating some candy and they're saying that was the edibles, and it wasn't the case, so it caused more problems than it was solving. And the biggest issue seems to be the smoke coming off of the product. That is the issue. So this one doesn't deal with the edibles, it just deals with the vaping and smoking.
Is this consistent with the smoking with tobacco use in the same spaces? Is it consistent with how we have it?
I believe this is slightly more strict than the tobacco ordinances. I believe tobacco is currently prohibited in parks. I believe I'm seeing some nods, yes. Whereas this would ban smoking of cannabis in sort of all public spaces. So it's a little more broad than the tobacco ordinances.
Any more questions for him? Okay, then we're looking for a motion, or you,
Prior to being a city council member, and even being a city council member, I've had nothing but pride in our police department. And my next concern is not based on our police department. From everyone I know that serves on our force, that I've had dealings with, they are very wonderful. The only thing I would like to talk about possibly, does this potentially cause public concern about people getting harassed by our police for walking down smoking a cigarette on the streets, which is legal? I know there's a lot of talk in the state about pretextual stops and stuff like that. I trust our police force, and I have pride in them. How much leeway do we give them, and how much do we need to do to make sure that they are given the best possible chance for success? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, the enforcement piece is your concern. Yeah, I guess, that's partly why I asked, is there consistency with tobacco smoking and cannabis and hemp smoking? Obviously, they have different smells. However, that does not negate the fact that both of them are harmful, and pollutants and et cetera. I think in terms of enforcement, my understanding is the legislator allocated millions of dollars to kind of do that research. And the only reason I know a lot about this is because it's part of my day job in public health. And so, yeah, I do have kind of those concerns. How do we balance education? Because my understanding when it first came out, there was a lot of concern, a lot of angst, or just kind of a lot of anxiety around it. However, there's still a long leeway before we get to that point, and so yeah, I think the way that this is laid out, for me, it just makes more sense if it is aligned with smoking tobacco as well, which is I know a side thing, but I think it'll help with consistency.
looking for a motion on the passing of the ordinance?
So moved.
So move, Councilmember Schweer.
Second.
Second, Councilmember Nordby. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
Thank you. Next up is the item B, consideration of options for 2579 7th Avenue improvements. And Brandy here to discuss these options with you. This is the property between Sidewinders and the tattoo shop downtown.
Okay, you'll recall our discussion on this, I would hope, from our last city council meeting, and at that time, I described that the EDA has been working on this project since early 2022. They asked WSB to prepare a concept drawing to establish a green space on the vacant lot at 2579 7th Avenue East, and their intent at that time was to create a temporary green space or a public gathering area that would soften this future redevelopment area in the downtown. And the EDA has cited that the old City Hall site on the corner of Margaret Street and 7th Avenue was a successful situation where we had greenscaping installed as an interim solution to a somewhat blighted area in the downtown prior to that Sentinel redevelopment occurring. Excuse me. So their preferred concept plan is shown on the screen. And as you can see, it has a landscape area, a short walking path, bench pads, a concrete area for public art, and the north half is parking. Oh, I'm sorry. Why is it not showing up? What am I doing wrong here?
It's a modern.
Is it me? I know what happened.
Yeah.
I had it plugged into this computer. For planning commission, I had it set up here. I had like a dual monitor, no.
Yeah.
You've got it fixed for me?
Oh, there we come.
It's a display, it's a display issue. It's because I have, I need to tell it that I've got two monitors.
Get a car and go on a field trip.
You know what I mean? So we just need to give it a second.
Well, Carrie's her inner keep. She knows when she moves, becomes bad. Yeah, that one, duplicate. You had the right. You had the right. Does that look right? Okay, sorry about that.
Thank you. It was my fault, actually.
Oh, nice. Good. Thank you.
Dang it. Well, this is not working as I would like it to. Well, you're gonna have to look at my notes and the screen because this is not set up as I would like it to be. Because I was using technology last time that's not moving forward with today. So anyway, so our concept plan is on the right and our development site is shown on the left. Okay, so you'll recall that we obtained bids for the improvements in the spring of 2023, and they came in higher than we expected. So the EDA met, and they advised that we instead seek to pave the entire lot. And then in July, we came back to them with a couple of options. So we reviewed the full parking lot paving versus the half parking lot, half turf, as it was originally designed. And after some discussion, the EDA favored the option to fully pave the lot. And they also suggested that they would like to see some planters added in addition to that along the sidewalk area on 7th Avenue. So they requested that staff come to the city council and request a 50-50 cost share with the city and the EDA, where EDA would pay for half the cost of the full paving, city council would pay for half of the cost. I'm sorry, the EDA would also pay for the other half plus $5,000 for planters. So the city council contribution would be $26,272.50. So we had that proposal presented last meeting, and at your direction, you asked for staff to follow up on some additional options. Full parking, half turf, half parking, half AstroTurf, and I also put together a no action option. I'm gonna make this one bigger. So the costs for each of these options is displayed on the top. No action is nothing. The pros of that is that there's not any immediate term investment, and the site can remain available for temporary snow storage, which is currently used for by Public Works. One of the cons is that it remains out of conformance with our parking ordinance, which requires that parking lots be paved with asphalt or concrete. The full parking option is $52,000, $545, sorry. It's the least costly of the options other than the no action. It would formalize the parking lot that currently exists. It'd be a low maintenance option. We could still use it for snow storage, and it would bring the lot into conformance. A con would be we eliminate the option of an activity space. Oh, I must have missed a slide in here. I'm gonna go back to this one here. So before jumping into the pros and cons, staff did evaluate the different options based on our planning documents. We have the comprehensive plan, the redevelopment master plan, and then we have the park improvement plan. So our comp plan shows this as a priority redevelopment site that's likely to develop by the 2030s per the future land use map. Our redevelopment master plan specifically describes this property as an opportunity to convert the space into a downtown plaza. It was understood that the redevelopment master plan envisions this open space as a connection between 7th Avenue and Sepulveda, if Sepulveda was ever going to be converted as a living street, a pedestrian-friendly, multifunctional street. So that would be kind of a broader reconstruct of that area, and this could be a connecting piece if it were to be utilized in that sense. And then our park improvement plan also indicates that we do need some park space in the downtown, but this is more of an urban area, and there is another site in the downtown that would be more appropriate for a park. In addition, this is not as centrally located to some of those new apartment uses. The one that's over on 7th Avenue and North St. Paul Drive would be more fitting for that purpose. So back to the analysis of the alternatives. So as I was saying, the con of the full parking is that we eliminate that option that could align with the redevelopment master plan. And then it also doesn't meet the landscaping requirements of our zoning ordinance in terms of, we haven't gotten a bid that would allow for landscape islands in the parking lot, which is a requirement for every 12 spaces. So the half parking, half turf, and the half parking, half artificial turf, the costs are shown on the screen. They both create the gathering space downtown, they improve downtown appearance. They both are somewhat in alignment with the redevelopment master plan. I have continuance of snow storage possible, but that is not correct on the half turf. That would need to move down to the con area. We would not be able to use it for that purpose. And, yep. And then ongoing maintenance and watering costs would be a con for that half turf. And then the artificial turf, low maintenance, no water required, and it's the most costly option in addition to them. Can't use it for snow storage.
So can you walk me through why the half turf, half parking lot went up $52,000 since last month? I see that a portion of it is water, but there's also a loader in there?
Oh, yep.
$5,000 a month for
That-
6 months for a loader?
That is based on what our Public Works Director has estimated would be the cost to store the snow if we're not able to use that site to put the snow.
So why does that get lumped on top of that? Why?
That was,
I don't understand.
it's an additional cost. If we go with this route, we'll have to go ahead and fund that activity.
Okay. I'm gonna disagree with where that cost should go.
I'm not understanding what you mean
I
by
don't
that.
understand how you can assess one small spot to be 5,000 for the entire use of a loader. Yes, you've got to move snow.
Okay. Would you like to talk to this point?
Thought you got off easy in the last room. You know, why? My question is, why does it get tagged on half on, half off? Why? I mean, we're gonna have to rent a loader regardless, correct?
Yes,
Why does it get lumped onto this project?
more than likely. I don't know why. Well, I mean, it got lumped onto this project just because that's where we store snow right now, and we just have to transport that snow, twice as far to remove it. That's probably why it got lumped on that project. Right, so right now, the timing that we have to get the snow out of downtown, we basically split the downtown into half, and half of it goes on that lot, half of it goes down on the old Right Price lot. And then that allows us time to remove that snow with trucks in the upcoming days, after we get that snow out of downtown. So instead of, if we lose that lot to put snow in, it's gonna have to go back, in the lot behind, or the old, I call it the old Foster Body Shop lot, but back in our public parking behind the mortuary. So it's almost twice as far as a push. So we're gonna have to have 2 loaders downtown so those guys can get that snow out of there in the amount of time that we have. So we have been talking about this just with the development of downtown. In the future, with all these apartments going in, and losing spots to have that snow storage down there. And we know eventually we're gonna lose all those spots to push this snow to. So when that happens, it's gonna be contracting trucks to come down there and work with us, additional people to get that snow out of downtown in the amount of time that we have. Or fill into the stalls, not push it to these designated spots, and then try to deal with that snow in the upcoming days, taking up these stalls and in the future. So is it fair to put it all on that? I think it's there because that's when the topic came up of, hey, if we're doing this, how does this affect everything? So I believe that's how it came up with. From Margaret, basically 7th and Margaret, east, all that snow goes there, all the stuff in the City Hall parking lot, the back of the parking, the fire, the fire aprons, all goes in that lot. And the front of the fire station, all that snow goes across the street where they're talking about, doing those garages or, and then west, all that stuff west of Margaret on 7th goes down into that old gas station lot that is there.
Before that apartment building, when we had half turf and half blacktop, we went there too, right, the blacktop during that time? When we redid that side, we had half and half when it came off the street. Was snow stored where the old where the new apartment in Max Diner, was it stored in that city lot as well?
Yes, it
So
was.
we lost that is what
Yep, that's where we used to push it. And then we started utilizing that corner lot on Helen and 7th, where the old gas station was.
Ron, if we were to repave that site with brand new pavement, brand new striping, but still kept snow storage and removal there, how do you feel that equipment, does that shorten the lifespan? Those big loaders and the trucks on this brand new paved?
Well, it would if the lot wasn't built correctly, but we'd build it to handle what that would be.
Okay.
Or what it would need.
Can you speak to the timeline in which you kind of plan on phasing out storage and putting snow downtown? You said when the apartments come in, or are you going to slowly, gradually, make that shift? What's that look like?
Well, when we start losing if we lose these 2 sites, so I had kind of planned on this park we were talking about, or this lot we're talking about right now, I'd kind of planned on for this year. I started talking about this last year with finance, saying, hey, if this is gonna happen, I'm gonna have to try to handle snow differently down there. Just because we only have a short window of time, depending on when it stops snowing, but basically we have from 1 a.m. till 5 a.m. at best to get the snow out of downtown. Right now, we handle it with 1 skid steer and a guy in a loader with a big snow pusher on it to get this snow dispersed out to these spots. That's so all the lots or all the parking spots are cleaned out in the morning, so there's no parking spots that are taken up with snow. If we have to double how far we push this snow, it's going to take more time. And trying to think of how we can do this with not adding extra people, not adding a whole bunch of extra equipment, or having to haul that snow totally out of downtown. I guess the simplest way to explain it is if we lose spots to push the snow off, just for that, in that 5-hour window for dealing with the snow, I'm probably gonna have to talk to you guys about hiring contractors to come down there to get this snow. I spoke with White Bear Lake last year, to ask how they operate, cause they clean all their snow out of their downtown. And the minimum guys they have is 5, and they go up to 9, depending on how much snow they get, and that varies. It's contract trucking, it's a whole bunch of additional equipment and people. We don't have that. I mean, we just don't have the guys. When we plow, every one of our guys is assigned a route, and there's no extra. So moving forward, for the timeline, as long as I have these spaces to push this stuff, I'm gonna use them. So the timeline would be, if these spots got taken up, I'd have to come up with a plan to figure out how I'm gonna get that snow out of downtown in that time that we have. Or we push them out to the end of the stalls. Why I don't like doing that is because there's plantings and stuff in the end of these stalls that get, covered up. And then when we go in and scoop it out with the loader, we end up digging up irrigation, we end up digging up the plants as careful as we wanna be with it. We get a big snow, and then just moving around. It requires more overnight work to do that, which is more noise downtown. When we push the snow off to these designated areas right now, we deal with that during the day after the guys are able to go home, sleep, and deal with it. It buys us time to do it. Otherwise, if we start taking stalls up on big snowstorms, we could take up 2 or 3 stalls on each end of that parking down there with snow. So timing will be, I guess, how this stuff gets developed, or if we build stuff in there where I can't utilize them.
Thank you.
And so it sounds like it's inevitably an issue that's gonna have to be addressed.
Without a doubt.
5 years from now, because hopes are that spot sells.
Well, exactly, and it's just something that's in the back of my mind that I have to plan for, and losing that spot, that's why I started talking about this additional loader. Yeah, we're probably we're gonna have to release a loader one way or the other this year. We got a plow truck that we're not getting, that got canceled, that we were supposed to get, and so either way, we're gonna lease this loader. How it gets applied to whatever here is a little bit higher than me, but.
But we'll go back in that room again in another.
Yeah.
But for as long as we can use it, we're saving money on equipment and labor, as long as we have those spaces.
Yes, but this loader will probably be coming one way or the other. For this year at least, to try it, to try to come up with a plan for future and how we're gonna deal with this in the most cost-effective way with the least amount of people.
So right now, that area indicates opportunity for redevelopment. Why isn't it for sale? Why don't we put for sale? We're looking to sell that lot. So instead of creating a park plan or a parking lot that's gonna cost money regardless, leave it and put it up for sale. Then you have a place to put snow.
You're jumping ahead in my presentation.
But you mentioned the truck, but you're still, if that's empty, you will still use that space this year.
Most definitely. Yeah, if it's an opportunity, if it got paved, we'd use it. If it stays the same, we'd use it. As soon as there's grass or turf in there, it's off limits, because it'll get wrecked.
Thank you, Ron.
I only had one other question, that's about water.
Water.
It's 15,000 to run it from wherever to wherever, I saw was the bid in there.
Yes.
We talked to, $2-3 grand to tap off of one of the other businesses on either side. Again, short-term project.
$2-3 grand to tap off one of the businesses? Is it? Did I come up with that price? Yeah. I did?
I think our hesitation
Ron.
to,
That good.
Or we can just say it, you think you did.
it's a real, ballpark estimate, because we don't know what we're gonna get into once we,
Got you covered.
once we get into the building, we have no idea what it would actually take without doing a sort of analysis. And do we want to actually provide our city services, public use benefits using private property? I think that we would have to involve legal in that, to make sure that it would be an acceptable agreement. And I think, as Ron has said in the past, if any future problem with their water service would arise, I think that we might have some considerations, whether or not it was our issue that caused it or not. So I think that we should consider that, and if moving down that path. Okay. Any other questions for Ron?
I'll let him get back to the back and he'll come up with something. Well, ready, come up.
Okay, so I did have a slide
Ron.
here on zoning regulations. Basically, both of the options would meet the zoning standards with the exception of the landscaping. We just didn't budget for that, and also it would be an issue if it's not a long-term parking stall or parking lot. Other considerations, we talked about the snow storage already, and this is identified as a redevelopment site in our comprehensive plan, so if we are going to do something other than that, whatever the decision is, we should be as definitive as we can in our resolution of that decision so that we know we can go back to that in the future if necessary. And then finally, why isn't it marketed? We have that sign on it, and there is opportunity to do more. So at this point, I'll open it up to your discussion or any questions for me. I could go back to that slide if you'd like for the analysis, pros and cons.
So right now, for the lot, it's a 50-50 split between EDA and
Well, that's their proposal.
that's still on the table.
They were wavering, I think, a little bit at the last meeting, but as an official vote wasn't made, so I think it's still on the table.
Can you clarify that? I got confused.
The EDA met last Tuesday, and they asked for an update on this, and I think that they were a little disappointed by the outcome from the council meeting, and so they were potentially wavering on their participation for moving forward, but there was no action taken on this item, so I can't give a definitive statement. Another option that's not, I'm sorry, another option not on the table is we select one of these three to move forward with, and then we could place it in the capital improvement plan and, punt it to the next year. Instead of trying to take action on it this budget year, we could have it in the capital improvement plan for next year or a following year.
We do have the money, though, for that?
We would be planning for the money.
We plan for it.
Oh, I thought we already had, because they had their, I thought that was, because they had their 26 and we had 26. Is what you spoke, yeah.
I'm just giving you another option if you didn't want to react to it tonight.
I'm just curious if that money was the same or if it got, as far as going forward. Thank you.
If I remember correctly, in our workshop, there was a discussion about a plan, and one of those plans was the downtown park.
The
Study
park
or
improvement plan
park?
from this presentation tonight?
Earlier this evening at our workshop.
Oh, yes, our park improvement plan does identify a need for a downtown park. It does not identify a location for it, but it does talk about a site on the intersection of 7th Avenue, and I think it's North St. Paul Drive, where that road was realigned. It's across the street from Reflex Medical. It's a green triangular space next to some townhomes. And so that is an undeveloped green space that was identified as potentially a future downtown park, but it wasn't specifically called that. And then as a separate recommendation, we need to have a master plan for a downtown park. And there's a population growth happening, so there is definitely a need for green space.
Can you speak to how long, and I know you're new here and there's always a lot of research to do, but do you know the span of time in which that lot has been undeveloped or has been vacant,
I think,
or unusable.
15? Oh, I went with 6.
15?
did your company do that plan? The EDA at some point after the building came down hired an architecture group to do a concept plan. Or were you on the EDA at that time?
No, we've done coring on the property since I've been there,
Yeah.
but I wasn't around for the concept plan.
This may have been, I'm guessing here, but I think maybe 10 years ago.
Ron said 15.
Yes, Mr. Blees.
Okay, it was about 12 years or 10 years ago? There were challenges? I'm not sure what the challenges were.
Because of the,
Adjacent building.
The adjacent buildings are very limited in their height, and to stick a tall building next to them complicates both properties, so it ended up being cost prohibitive.
Okay, so I guess that would,
Is that site, do you see more of a development for the other buildings together? More of a bigger concept down there, or? Thank you.
so after it was torn down, the building was torn down, then it became a parking lot? It was paved to be a parking lot? Or no, it was just as is, like it is right now?
I don't know that it was ever paved.
No, the parking lot, the parking space that was there remained there, and the area that got tore down got refilled in with recycle waste, and it's been that way since.
Right.
So the parking was in the back? Like the Sepola side?
I think the parking was along the side.
On the side.
Okay, interesting. So I guess that we could probably comfortably say action was never taken to formally turn it into a parking lot.
Thank you.
And from an EDA standpoint, it started almost 2 years ago now. Where the action started was, I don't think the city is in compliance with our own ordinances for tear downing of a building, and I think it's supposed to be planted grass or something's supposed to be done. So that's where it started, because it wasn't aesthetically pleasing, and we weren't necessarily following our own ordinances. Is where this started, and this is where we are today.
Thanks, Tim. Appreciate that history. Can you speak to like the decision? Is it strictly cost and ease to just do a parking lot, or was there like? Because I know that there was discussion around a parking study in the next year, so I'm just trying to understand how that all plays.
I don't know that there was ever a discussion at the EDA regarding parking study. I think the Planning Commission had talked about doing something along those lines. Am I incorrect in that?
We do have information about downtown parking, and it's a pretty good packet of some of the work that's been done on that. It's kind of changed for a while, but I think that was a good 10 years ago that something like that was done.
Probably due for one.
I would lean on the mayor and Councilmember Cole. Do you want to provide an update on what you thought was the outcome of the discussion at the EDA regarding this site?
I have to look this direction because I was unable to make the meeting.
Oh, that's right.
So I yield my 5 minutes.
All right, thank you. So they discussed, and like you mentioned before, that they were put the funds in for to do the parking part of that part. Also, not going with the cost prohibitiveness of the
Yeah, I would.
and everything else.
I would agree with that. They're still more aligned with improving the site in a cost-effective way. They want.
Builds that can tear part of the parking lot and still have the back half or whatever they're gonna do with it. I mean, it's can still be used.
it was stated that if the city council chooses to move forward with an option that would result in greening it up, that they would really promote making it clear that this is going to be green for a determined amount of time, or is this actually going to be a redevelopment site? So kind of making that statement, yes, this is a temporary solution. They're concerned that if it turns into something that resembles a park, that public perception will make it continue to be a park long into the future, past maybe the intended purpose or tenure of the green space.
Yeah, I think I struggle a little bit because I find open space and plazas actually as a tool for economic development. It brings people down. I understand car parking, you know, you need a place to be for that, but comparatively, I think we have more parking than we have plaza or people space in the downtown. So that's just kind of my my perspective on that.
Jason?
I'm not sure what people are referring to when they say plaza. Could-
I think that a typical downtown plaza could be a variety of different things. If you think of cities like Boulder, Colorado, for example, has a pedestrian mall that's people only, no cars, it's brick sidewalks, planters, fountains, performance space, public art, not necessarily a park, but it is a dedicated, permanent feature of the downtown.
Yeah, I'm struggling with the fact that this is a opportunity for development and spending money towards this. And then the amount of snow that we're going to be putting in there and pushing in there. And if you factor in the salt and the maintenance of the parking lot itself, there's just so many factors that I don't see any purpose right now of spending the money.
Overall, 0 is what you're saying.
Correct.
Is there a plan for the EDA to do additional development or marking of the site? You had mentioned the sign. Anything a little bit more proactive in terms of website? My understanding is when we did the redevelopment master plan, that would have been a tool to kind of promote development, and that there may be an online component for that. So I'm just kind of wondering where that falls in this scheme.
I think the EDA could certainly take that up for discussion, come up with some options for how this could be marketed in a different manner. And you are correct about the development development concepts, development sites map, that I think that was an option that we could hire a consultant to assist with. I don't know that we have the volume of open sites that would necessitate that kind of investment, but we could definitely maybe start working with a broker to see what the options are and to take it up with the EDA if they've got some advice or relationships.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the cost trade-off is to hire, a broker versus I would love green space in a plaza, and it just seems a little bit like there's more to do before we kind of take the leap here, in my opinion.
Mine, I thank you, Ron, for coming up and speak. I was at the city picnic, and Public Utilities was out there, so I asked them about, just in general, different things. So they spoke to me and then Brian about the needs of the city for that spot and how that works, and being able to move the snow at the pace that they need to without adding a lot more labor and equipment to it. So I took that into account. Also, just coming up to code with what we got, as far as we shouldn't have dirt in the middle of the gravel and things like that, just to bring us up to code for the price of 26, whatever it is, plus the EDA kicking in and having some more spots for, say, during the car show, and just be able to make that more of a utility spot where we got the parking, we got the snow, we got things where we can do it's not a huge cost if somebody comes and develops it. Right now, it's been 15 years. I mean, who knows how long it's gonna be there for. It's just this little niche spot. It's gonna cost a bit. Our developer said he couldn't get any loans on the commercial space that we had for our big project down at Lilly. So it's very hard to get commercial loans right now and things like that. So to me, it's to bring us up to compliance, be able to utilize that for a bunch of different scenarios, parking, snow, and things like that. And I know it all comes out of one pot, but it's half of the price of the regular one.
To be clear, it doesn't bring us fully into compliance.
Yeah.
Does it?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so.
Okay, explain.
Oh, the parking ordinance requires that for every 12 parking stalls that we have some sort of landscape island. And to install those would increase the cost, and it would also negate the snow storage possibility.
Is that on your?
Yep, it's on the screen, second column, bottom point.
I mean, I was pretty vocal last month, and I was vocal at the EDA. I believe I was the only one who voted against the full parking lot option. Downtown needs softscape. Downtown needs something. This is a property that is for sale, so doesn't behoove the city to spend a whole ton of money in hopes that it would sell in the next 12 to 24 months. Something does need to be done. It isn't pretty. It's an eyesore to the downtown area, in my opinion. If I understood Councilmember Wong correctly, I'm in favor of let's hire somebody to get the thing sold. Let's get it done and not spend any money downtown. Utilize that money differently. That's option 5.
I believe somewhat in line with that. My opinion would be we would give, and maybe this has already been done, Parks and Rec a month or 2 months to decide, is this the site that we want to go long-term for a downtown softscape? Because I agree downtown does need some areas. If it's decided that this is a great long-term spot for that, we go that route. Otherwise, it's zero action, get it sold. But I would be in favor of making sure we don't want this as our long-term softscape.
I guess my question is why is it a temporary desirable for you?
It's not.
Oh, okay. So you want, okay.
If we're gonna make it a softscape, it should be a softscape for a long, long time.
I see. I hear you. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'd be okay with that as well.
The way I hear it is we ask for a little bit more energy around selling it and getting it developed, and or a solid investment into that space as a soft space.
I think it's in the middle of a bunch of different things where there's ripe for redevelopment because there's a lot of old buildings there. I mean, it's more than likely, that's why I asked Patrick that question, more than likely somebody's gonna probably come in and want more space and take down the older buildings maybe situation. And it becomes a park thing, and it's pretty tough to do something like that. So going forward, doing nothing for now is kind of the gist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Or, I mean, we would request that there would be that action.
what I indicated earlier. We market it if it's for sale, then let's market it for sale instead of saying an opportunity for development. People don't know what that, I mean, yeah, it's an opportunity for development. Is it for sale? Yes, it's for sale. So let's market it for sale and have no action.
Just ask for forgiveness because we're not in compliance.
We made it 15 years.
The city attorney.
Ron, you got a parking lot, it sounds like, for another winter.
Either way.
This is on the council agenda as a discussion item. Would it make sense for them to give direction in the form of a vote?
Yeah. We have to, don't we? Because it's on a action item?
It's a discussion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so I don't think there's necessarily a vote so much as if there's a consensus that can be reached and then a direction given.
Well, do we have to do that to reach a consensus? Don't we have to?
I think somebody should state it, and it could be me, if that would be helpful. So I believe the direction is to take no monetary action at this time, and to instead engage with the broker to figure out what it would take to actively market the site. Okay.
Does that take monetary action to work with a broker?
I honestly don't know.
I don't either. That was why I said the no monetary thing.
Okay.
I got no clue.
If it does,
I mean, on residential, but I'm not sure.
if there is any sort of commitment, then it would be brought back to you. Okay, I'm up next, so when you're ready for me to move on to the
All right,
next.
thank you, Brandy. Hi, Brandy.
Got another costume or nothing? All right. Next. Thank you for, appreciate you doing that. I appreciate everybody's input. That's awesome.
You're welcome. Would you like to introduce the next item?
So the next item up is consideration of development for proposal of the 17th Avenue and Delaware Avenue site, which is a 2.5 acre lot that, looking at proposals for development.
Okay, so earlier this year, the city we've received some interest from a couple of independent parties to look at this site. And we created an RFP and sent it out to those 3 specific developers. And we received 2 proposals that were complete, and they were both invited to give presentations last meeting, and they did. Here's the subject sites. It's 2.5 acres, city-owned parcel at the northeast intersection of 17th Avenue and Delaware Avenue. It's the location of a former church that was demolished in 2009. We acquired the site in 2010 to eliminate blighting conditions there. It's across the street from Richardson Elementary School and half a mile from both of our community-sized parks, Casey Lake and Silver Lake. And it's also adjacent, or not adjacent to, but within a quarter mile of Polar Park and Tower Park. The surrounding uses are 1 and 2 story single-family homes, and as well as the school. So as I mentioned, 2 proposals were received. The first was from KT and Andrus, who proposed 6 single-family dwellings that would front Delaware and 17th. Approximately 1.5 acres would be undeveloped for stormwater and green space purposes. The density of the site, excluding that green space, would be about 6 dwellings per acre. No interior streets or driveways are proposed. Everything would be accessed from the existing streets. And preliminary discussions with Ramsey County have indicated they are favorable to allowing that. It is their county highway, so we do need to get their permission. And their proposed purchase price is $70,000. The other proposal was from High Point Group. Since the last meeting, they actually submitted this new concept that's on the screen. This current proposal is 12 twin home units, so 6 buildings, 12 units. And they're proposing approximately 1 acre would be remaining for the green space and stormwater purposes. And their development density is 8 dwellings per acre. And their development includes an interior shared driveway for 10 of the 12 units, and the other 2 would have direct access from Delaware Avenue right here. And they're proposing to purchase the site for $150,000 with that density. Sorry, go ahead. We did some analysis and looked at the various plans that the city has prepared and what they have to say about our housing goals. So those are on the screen. Both of them enhance the neighborhood value with quality housing options and types at all price points. The comprehensive plan also designates the site for medium density residential, which could allow up to 12 units per acre if we were to rezone it to R2 mixed residential, sorry. We did prepare a housing study that was done last year, and the housing demand that is expected to occur between 22 and 2030 is on the screen for the various products, and the remaining demand for the two different products is shown in the far right column. So if we were to take the K&T proposal, we would still have to provide 34 single-family homes at some point in the future. And for High Point, we would have a remaining demand of 231 after their proposal was constructed. Zoning considerations, I did a kind of as thorough of an analysis as I could with the limited amount of information that I had. But what I have learned is that there's deficiencies in both. Neither one of them can be developed just straight out. K&T and Andrus, they had area variance needed. So a couple of the lots didn't meet the minimum lot area requirement. So if they were going to move forward, that would be one of the zoning requirements that they would have to clear up. The High Point group requires a PUD. They need flexibilities for minimum lot area, lot width, and setbacks. And there's also a provision in our zoning ordinance that requires groupings of two-family dwellings to automatically go through the PUD process, so they couldn't get out of it just because if there's more than one two-family, you got to get a PUD.
Can you speak to why that is?
Why it's in our zoning ordinance, I can't speak to that, but I think that it is common or fairly common in certain cities where they feel that high volumes of that type of use can have certain negative character impacts on a neighborhood. Our ordinance doesn't indicate why that provision is in there, but it is a requirement. It does give the city some more control over site planning and design in these cases. So comparing the pros, they both are going to give us some new tax base. The use for K&T Andrus aligns with the existing development pattern. It meets housing goal number 1 and contributes toward meeting the for sale single-family demand. High Point has a higher purchase price plus the new tax base. Their density aligns closer with the future land use goals of our comprehensive plan. It also meets housing goal number 1 and contributes towards that multifamily demand. Cons for the two, our purchase price for K&T is lower, and again, they both have cons because they can't be developed as presented without getting variances or PUDs. Not necessarily deal breakers, but they can definitely be accommodated, but it's just additional flexibilities that need to be granted. So other considerations, one of the things that you guys talked about at your last meeting was let's turn that green space into a park. And I just wanted to maybe talk you through that. There is a number of parks in the area, and that land is kind of landlocked, and it wouldn't be publicly available. So some other options would be make it a green space for the tenants that are bordering that land. And we could also look at alternatives whenever that comes through.
Would a community garden be conducive to that space?
Potentially, if we have a way to get grant access to it. So next steps, if the council decides to move forward with either of these, we would select one of the two development partners, and then we would start negotiating with them on the development agreement and the purchase price. And once we have that completed, then we kind of move forward with our zoning entitlements, the PUD or the variance. And then we'd have to also go through the preliminary and final plating process.
What did we purchase the lot for?
Oh, the amount?
I believe it was 160,000.
160?
Yes.
When?
2010.
They tore, did we, I can't remember if we tore it or they tore it down.
Who tore it down, guys?
They did, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it was bulldozed in 2009. We bought it in 2010.
I'd like to,
For 160?
so one thing, if you don't mind, I'd like to throw another one out there. We have our student housing program, our considered HRA program. So you were looking for land, I think, as far as, maybe somebody was, as far as our development. We talked to the school. The lady who runs the program is very excited about the program. Tom's gonna be around longer, and it's a big hit for them as far as bringing students in and things, being able to do that with the school program. So trying to find land around the area is pretty tough, developable land, and that would be maybe 6 spots for future housing. As long as it's not, for a while there, people are talking, quite a bit. If we're gonna go along the lines of single family there, it's been kind of broken down into 6 spots. Right now, we got a spot next to the house they just did, which when we were there doing the tour, they already had multiple people looking at trying to purchase it before it even went on the market. So, and there was like 20 some on the wall. So if we're gonna continue this program, we're gonna need land, and if we don't have land, they're gonna be looking elsewhere. So is that maybe an idea of taking this and using this as a student, and this is what I'm asking the people using this as for the future of the student-built housing program?
It would be moving into a different direction, but we could certainly consider that.
I'm just throwing it out there because I know we're running out of spots, and if we don't have it, then they'll probably move on to somewhere else.
I think if that's the direction that council wanted to send staff, we could certainly explore that opportunity.
I'm asking the group here.
Can I, before the group, I just wanted to clarify, I was able to look up the purchase price, and it was $140,000 back in 2010.
So 150 is one price, 70 is the other price for the land.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Do you know what the current value of that land is, approximately?
We inquired with Ghost Realty what they thought it would sell for, and they said, I think it was like $500,000 to $700,000.
Just for the land?
Just for the land, yeah. Well, that wasn't a,
Did you catch him on the way to the truck, maybe? He just turned around and said, 500,000.
he ran out there and took a look at it.
All right, okay. Make sure. But
I had gone to the student build home and visited it and had a conversation with Jill in regards to our partnership as a city and what type of space we have in the future. I also had discussion with Randy and Ron in regards to where we're moving forward, where potential areas could be. Doesn't sound like there's more than probably 2, one of which they're going to begin next year, and it has been identified. And the following year in 2025, it's a maybe location. So I think this is going against what I thought would be a good idea personally, and who I would have liked to seen. But I also feel like this is a really good opportunity for our city because in this program, and Jill really likes working with us and likes the partnership with Ron and Randy and how quick we are to assist and be there for them. I feel like this is a perfect space for some additional homes, and that will bring skill sets to students and their future.
Ron and Randy, any issues with working with the student-built housing? as far as you guys run across? Just want to make sure we're not,
See what happens when you come to meetings?
well, it's good. We don't have to take notes.
You know, Randy can come up too.
No, you know what, it's a great program. It is, it's a lot of extra work for us, because we're basically like a general contractor. It's something that I guess both of us have an interest in, the construction stuff, we know that part of it. And like I said, Tom has been a great guy to work with. There's lots of issues when you build a house, brand new houses that we come across, but we get together, we solve the problems and, deal with it. If talking about the biggest challenges we have is would be finding lots, or us being out there, doing that with everything else that we deal with. But no, I think it is a great program, and if we can keep it going, this secures it for, multiple years, if this is something that the, council is on board with. Like I said, from our perspective, yeah, it's extra work, but I think it's for a good cause in the end.
In my opinion, if it does fizzle after maybe 2 houses and something changes, we still have the lots to sell to develop. It's not like, it's still there, land for sale for houses, so. Going forward, I think I could see the value of not looking and scrounging and maybe losing the program.
Yeah, and there's some sewer work that needs to get done, some sanitary sewer work, because the houses that are on 17th there, their sewers go off because there's no sanitary sewer out in the front, out on 17th Avenue, so it's in the back. We have to realign some of that to make, something work. But just so people know that up front, but I think that's going to be pretty much with any of these developers.
Yeah, I'm looking for clarification. When you say sewer work, you're talking about moving that line that's in the property as part of it? Okay. So we need to do some engineering studies, and there will be costs involved with that.
Yeah, and I think that, like, when you were talking about the price for Timber Ghost, I don't know if you figured in, I think a lot of these prices that, these other people have offered, I think they've considered having to move that sewer, and, I don't know what that would be. I think it's about, 350 feet of sewer that we have to realign. So, there's gonna be, some cost involved with that, so.
Just something to study, it may not, but just for us to look at.
Okay, I would recommend that if there are no further discussion or question, go ahead. Do you have a question? Please ask your question.
No, I'm good. I promise, I'll leave it alone now.
I was just going to suggest that it does seem like there are enough unknowns at this point that it would not hurt to maybe do a little bit of analysis to see what the benefit between selling to one of the developers versus keeping it ourselves. What are those costs going to be? Like, what's it going to take to move the sewer line? What's it going to take to, how many lots can we actually get out of it? I think it's probably going to be 5 instead of 6, just because there's a variance necessary for the one that was 6.
We got a variance on the one on 19th because the lot was too small.
I'm not familiar with that project.
Yeah, they were gonna have to do a single car garage, we didn't give them a variance, so they actually got over a little bit farther, otherwise they would have had a single car in that first single level one they built.
So again, this was on, actually, no, this might have been an action item. So I'll take your direction.
I was also at the student built, and I really appreciated seeing the partnerships there. I mean, you saw superintendents from across the East Metro. You saw Harbor Freight, our team was there, and students, and it was really beautiful to see even local students that live in North St. Paul build a home in their own community.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like the program quite a bit. I do have some concerns in the resale. To me, it seems to be cost prohibitive to a lot of people. And so when I think about the HRA, it doesn't really match the idea of affordability or the goals of affordability. So I'm gonna throw this out there, so bear with me, but can we maybe also explore different types of development? For example, like tiny home communities and things like that as a pilot. I know I threw it out there, sorry. But I think that we can probably have more houses out of that. They could probably finish that with a little bit less stress during the school semester. But just something for us to consider is if they're able to do something a little bit different, or we can mix it up. All right, I'm done.
I think it's a great idea. It's a great concept. Something to consider.
Well, yeah.
But I put a fly in the ointment, what do we do now?
Yeah.
Staff is seeking direction from council.
I think we
Explore student built.
Yeah.
I really see that. I was so excited. There was two young men that were taking their moms on tours to show with me in the closet. I built this, and I was doing this and that.
Young female saying, I
Yep.
did the window,
Yep.
I placed the window in.
Exactly.
It's extremely rewarding. It was really cool to see that. And then even just the community coming out and taking a look at what students have done. I'd like to suggest that we explore other options right now and consider student-built housing and notify our individuals that have placed in proposals that we're exercising another option right now.
Are we voting on another option or exercising?
I would, thanks, Tim.
I don't know if we vote on it because we know the sewer stuff.
I don't think we have the capability right now because we don't have a lot of that information.
I think that what you're giving me is direction to do some research on this other option, to keep the lot, develop it as student-built housing under a potentially different,
Under student housing, we'll have to figure out.
okay, student housing, period. Okay.
How many houses can be built on that? What's it going to cost for the sewer to be moved?
With the understanding that we are open to non-traditional if the students want to conform to it as well.
Non-traditional meaning like the tiny home
Okay.
concept, correct?
Okay.
Have fun. Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Been an easy night, hasn't it?
We had such a good meeting with the program director, and it's just shame to see it, fizzle out because we run out of property. And if we do go the other way, that's fine, but just to understand before we are paying an absorbent amount of money to buy a lot to do a student home building, which is gonna make the price of the houses even more.
I appreciate the direction. Thank you very much.
All right, item D, item pulled from the consent agenda, is July 18th, 2023, closed session minutes, summary of the closed session. Turn that over to you, Mayor.
That's gonna be me. Hold on. Apologize. This is why I have Brian read, so you're all gonna have to bear with me here. We'll just make fun of me. Hold on. That's fun to do. Okay, this is after our closed door meeting. Mr. Frandl, excuse me, I already screwed it up. Is respected and supported by the city staff. There is a need for additional clarification of the division and responsibility between Mr. Frandl and the city council. The city council has additionally asked for improved communications between Mr. Frandl and the city staff and the members of the city council. The city council concludes that Mr. Frandl is working earnestly and in good faith with the city of North St. Paul and has laid out adjustments that we can see better communications, which quality improve of service in the city's residents going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
And appreciate it.
Next item up is item E, pulled from the consent agenda, and that is declaration of equipment surplus.
I pulled that. Item O.
Did I miss something?
No, do we need to approve what was, because it was pulled from the consent agenda, so it wasn't approved. So do we need to approve what you read?
I believe that there was clarity in regards to.
It still has been pulled and hasn't been, nothing's been approved.
Jack?
Yes, so I think we can do a motion to approve the summary of conclusions.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Second.
All right, Cole and Wong. How's that?
Started by Jack.
Started by Jack.
Right?
Yeah.
Aye. Do we have to say aye?
Oh, all those in favor say aye.
Oh, aye.
Aye.
Hi.
He's got the names right, so I'm happy with that. What? Say no? All right, welcome.
I had pulled item O. The only reason I pulled it is because it didn't list, and I don't know if we have choices, it didn't list what site these were going to be sold on. Do we have choices, or is it always the same site?
Oh, where do we list them, Randy? Where do we normally list them?
Municipid, is that still the same one?
We're getting to it.
I've had residents ask me before what happens to it, and I know they're interested, so if we could make sure that going forward, when we're giving stuff, that wherever we're gonna list it is in the,
The surplus where we're gonna.
Yep.
Surplus,
is in the minutes, that'd be great.
I will make sure that that happens.
And is there like a minimum value for some of these
Yes, a
items?
lot of the stuff, what we'll do, we'll get on this truck, we didn't, you'll see there's no box on it. That was our garbage truck that we used. It had a flatbed, aluminum flatbed on it. We actually took that off, repurposed it, put it on one of our other trucks to save us probably, $50,000-$60,000 in buying a whole new truck. So, but what we do on a lot of the stuff is that we try to get a trade-in price on it if we're trading it in on a new vehicle, and then we'll tell them, all right, give us your trade-in price, and then we'll put it out on a bid site to see if we can get more than that, and we'll set that as a minimum for what our trade would be. So, and we usually end up getting a lot more for it, if we put it out for, on a bid, so. I will make sure that in the future that I list that in there, that's no problem.
Thank you.
Got it, all right.
Thanks for going that extra step, too. That sounds like it brings more money. Appreciate it.
It definitely does, so.
So I now move to accept item O.
So, yes, second.
Second, Councilmember Cole. All those in favor say aye.
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 More pizza.
Anybody keeping an eye when we lost control?
All right, next item up is item F, which was pulled from the consent, management service agreement for municipal recreation facility with the city of North St. Paul and Triple Crown batting cages.
So I did pull that item. I think most of us have gotten a lot more communications from the public in regards to this particular contract. I think that it's worth our while to ensure that this does serve the North St. Paul youth. And so in our contract, there is a little bit of leeway around youth rates. Is there something for us to do as a council that ensures that North St. Paul youth benefit from this agreement? Does that make sense? So in the contract, and Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, it states that the business can operate its rates as their business model, and then the city would review and approve those rates. Is that correct? That's in the contract?
That's correct.
And so I guess my question to the council is, is there something there in terms of ensuring that our youth are going to benefit? Does that make sense?
How do you determine it's our youth?
It's a great question.
I mean, would it be, yeah, I say would it be a mom and dad's driver's license indicating that that's where their
school ID?
School ID, which is another good option.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that we are investing in the youth. I think that given the state of post-pandemic, our youth really need a lot more options and outlets. And if we can make sure that this is the most feasible and accessible for them, then I'd be all for that, whatever that looks like.
Would we still have that ability if the contract was passed as is, and then under that contract and that wording, then we would be able to address it from there?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
So to address the point that Councilmember Wong has brought up, do we pass the contract as is, and then with that wording in there, do we then address that specifically, or how would you approach that?
Part of that may require some negotiation with the other party in the contract, depending on what exactly you want that to look like. As far as the contract is currently drafted, the city has the ability to approve, but it does place the primary responsibility for setting rates on the contractor. And so the city would have a somewhat limited ability to set that as this current contract is drafted.
And provided that it is his business, it's really, he sets the prices on it.
Sorry, one more time.
Provided that this is his business and what we have written in the contract is clear that we're asking him to rent from the city. Technically, because it's his private business, he would have the say in what his prices are.
Yeah, the way that it's framed in the current contract.
And I don't think it's fair to himself to tell him that his rates should be changed when it's not our company.
Well, I guess like my perspective on that would be from the lens of public-private partnership. Like it would just be an agreement that can be made.
I see your perspective. I mean, I get it. It's his private business, and I don't know if I don't think it is fair for us to tell him that he should charge North St. Paul kids, I'm just throwing out a price just to say it, $1 a coin versus $2 a coin. That is not, and let me add, that is not his pricing. I just use that as an example.
Yeah, I guess like from that perspective, it's if we are collaborating to have his business on city land, then that would be our mutual agreement, and with that, I think it's an opportunity to create a pathway for our youth to have better access.
I'm following you. However, there are other organizations that are renting from city property that we are not controlling what they are spending and asking their pricing for North St. Paul students either.
And I would say that probably begs a larger question of what is our standard when we go into working with community partners, whether it be nonprofits serving youth or whether it be a completely private business or the leagues that are in our community. I think, yeah, that kind of begs for a little bit more consistency on our end in terms of policy.
I would say that would be a separate subject to bring up at another council meeting.
Anything else?
So, the reason I'm in favor of doing a contract with Mr. Bartholomew is I believe as a private business, and from everyone I know and trust that gives me legal advice, that if we just give him the business, even though it's been done in the past, that the litigation risk is high for the city. That was the reason why I was in favor of doing a contract with Mr. Bartholomew. Like I say, I have to go with the people that I know and trust to give me legal advice. That was why I'm in favor of doing a contract. However, everyone I've ever talked to, and it's not in question in my mind, he is a wonderful man, has contributed a lot to the youth of the sports surrounding communities and all that. To be fair to him, because it sounds like the contract that we have talked about and presented to him isn't something that, as of this moment, he's in favor of. I think it would be doing a disservice to him if we don't explain what the intentions are or what would happen should he choose not to sign it. My personal thought, because, like say, truly believe it's a wonderful business, truly believe he has a great business model, there's no question that he has affected a lot of people. But should he choose not to sign it, I believe we have to let him know what would happen to be fair to him. My thought, to be consistent with everything I know, which, granted, I'm new, that building would have to be opened up for proposal. Now, whatever we said, we would go out for proposal, and whoever gave us the best proposal would be able to run that business for whatever contract length was determined. That would be what my thought would be, what would have to happen in the building. Like I said, I want to give him every option to continue. I want to make sure we're being fair to him as much as we can and work with him. But I think if we don't outline something, that's not fair to him.
For the $2 square foot, I think is where the contract lands now. If I remember right, that was the number that was discussed when Bart was up front there.
Yep, he asked for that price when he was here before.
Okay. And that's what we're giving him.
That's what the contract reads right now, correct?
I don't know if with this part we can do that, no?
Yeah.
Sorry.
With the information that's out there, do you want to go forward with a vote? And then if that passes at that point, then we can address the cost or rates that we talked about, and we'd certainly address any concerns if, what would happen if the contract wasn't signed.
Been before us enough, we should vote. That's my opinion.
Can I ask for a clarification, maybe a reframe of what you were saying? Summary?
I believe we have presented him an option with a contract with what we believe is fair and consistent with what we're being told legally, and for the city. What I'm getting from him is that this isn't something that he might choose to, and totally his choice, to proceed to move forward with. I just didn't know if we needed to spell out what would happen or if that's just a conversation with him and Brian, being new to city council.
I mean, I think that's a fair question for us to answer as council too, is like, what do we expect out of that building in the future?
I don't think we've gotten any further past running it as a batting cages with the current contract with
No
Mr.
golf
Bartholomew.
Simulator?
Yeah, well, there you go. Put it out for a vote.
I just want to be clear that this is the agreement that's like both parties. This is a clear agreement that both parties are in favor of.
No, it was the $2 that was discussed.
It was a price that he had asked for, but then also after the fact, after we sat down, he had requested again to ask to continue the way it was at no cost.
For a vote?
All in favor?
You need to call? Somebody has to call for it, right? Call for a motion?
So moved.
So move, Councilmember Schweer. Second, anybody? Second. Second, Councilmember Cole. All those in favor of the agreement, say aye.
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 Those fail, and those against, say nay.
Nay.
All right, thank you.
Motion passed. Next up is report from city manager and departments. I just have a couple quick things. The Lilly building is starting to come down. They have the two buildings starting at Helen, moving east down, and they started on the corner or the west side of the building as of today and got part of that on the ground, so that's moving forward. The project downtown for the 7th Avenue reconstruction is still online to be finished up by September 11th. So that's coming along nicely. Also want to report that we did receive a transportation grant from MnDOT for a price of approximately $460,000, which would give us the ability to install a sidewalk on the north side of 11th Avenue, going from McKnight Road to Ariel. That would be something at this point that we would work on for next year. It would be an extra wide path, taking into consideration, see what the requirements or restrictions might be on the granting money, to whether or not if we can do some kind of biking path or if it's strictly a walking path. But I know it's going to be a thicker and wider path for snow removal that the city would be responsible for. And that's all I have. Reports of council commissions and committees.
Reports, Jason? Councilor Nordby?
Unfortunately, I missed the last planning commission meeting, and the next planning commission meeting is on September 7th.
Jeez.
Councilmember Wong.
Thank you. The Arts and Culture Commission met earlier this month, the first Wednesday of this month. They're super busy. If you've read the newsletter, they've got tons of events going. Thank you for approving the mural list. We're really excited about that. And thank you to Public Works for working with our team, with the Arts and Culture team, to get that going. There's a paint party coming up as well. The art cart will be at the Music in the Parks this week, and Project Snowy is available for purchase. Yay. Yeah. And planning's going underway for the Arts and Culture Festival in collaboration with the Parks and Rec, and yeah, things are going really well. We are looking at a phase 1.5 for our utility boxes, so look out for that. In the next. There are prices for Snowy, yep, and I can forward that.
They started that, they painted the first layer at Silver Lake restrooms today for part of that mural, so, yep. Yep.
Yeah, and I think he'll be out there and people can come and chit chat with him and ask what his, approach and vision is and things like that, so that'll be really great. Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Park and,
Just go, don't wait for me to try to figure out your name. So
my
go
name is
ahead.
Councilmember Schweer, and Parks and Rec had their last meeting canceled because it was food truck night, excuse me. So the next meeting will be on August 23rd, next Wednesday, here in council chambers. Also, a friendly reminder, this is the last Music in the Park this Thursday at Casey Lake. Music is Empty Pockets at 6 p.m. Smo food truck will be there. So bring your blankets and your lawn chair and enjoy the nice weather. As I understand, it's supposed to be very nice.
Thank you. Councilmember Cole.
Thank you. You're welcome. I yield my time back to the mayor because I was not in attendance at last week's meeting. I will state, though, the next meeting is September the 12th.
Thank you.
But other than that, you're on your own.
Thank you, appreciate it. I went through, most of it was about the parking and understanding the different scenarios as we discussed that, and trying to think if there was much more as far as new business. There really wasn't. It was pretty late. Do you remember anything, Brian, that jumps out at you? No? Going over different alternatives. Okay, all right, that's it. Then we have general business. Any
I would like to thank Rachel Thompson for a wonderful host on National Night Out. And I would also like to remind everyone that on the 26th is the Legion Brat and Corn Feed.
Oh, sounds good. 2 food staples. Councilmember Wong.
Thank you. Just a big thank you to city staff. There's been a lot going on and a lot of things coming your way, and it's budget season, so definitely appreciate all the extra time and energy put into that. So thank you. That's it.
I would also like to ditto that, what Councilmember Wong indicated with our city staff. There's been a lot going on, a lot of decision-making, a lot of research, definitely Public Works and all the streets and fixing those. Thank you all so much. I also attended National Night Out, the fire department, in their open house. They did a fantastic job, despite of the rain. Thankfully, they had an indoor location that a lot of us can just, some of the stuff was moved indoors, which was nice. Tim and I went out and visited some of the communities. This was the first time I've done it, obviously, with being a council member, and I tell you what, I was exhausted by the end of the night of how much chatting I had. But it was a lot of fun. It was nice to meet some of the community members. Thank you all for being so welcoming and asking questions. Lastly, visited the student build. It is such a beautiful home, had great conversations with all the students. the staff that assisted them, the parents. It amazes me the skill sets they have gained and what is opening their eyes to trades, definitely a I would say a dying industry right now, and not a lot of people are going into it. So it's exciting to have this opportunity delivered to students in our city. Super thankful for Randy and Ron as they helped the student build and oversaw that as a general contractor. You guys answered a lot of calls in regards to it, not only with the neighbors, but also were willing to jump up and go straight to those houses. That student build house upon questioning. You guys are making a difference in those children's lives. So kudos to you two and Tom for overseeing the project. You guys are making a big difference.
For sure. Boy, that's hard to follow. Ditto.
Well, I'll get your name right. Councilmember Cole, you want to try?
Reiterate a lot of things that have already been said. That's the goal. That's what's the lucky part about being last, as long as we're not voting. Again, there's been a lot going on. It's been a month since we sat here last. A lot of stuff goes on in our community. It's the dedication and hard work of staff and in all the departments to make everything wonderful. National Night Out, we drew straws to figure out. It's always fun to see who wants council members to attend their National Night Out meetings, and you never quite know what you're going to walk into. I got to be very happy to say that we hit all but one. Even after all the rain, they were all going except for one. And a lot of positive accolades to what the city's doing. A lot of questions about the streets, which I've got to thank Brian because I anticipated some of that. So he, gave me some information from a timeline standpoint. A lot of new neighbors, a lot of new residents in the city over just the last several years. And they sing the praise of what North St. Paul is. That's phenomenal to hear. Student build housing, I won't go a lot into that. I think it's been covered. Other than the point, I think the parents were smiling bigger than the kids. Mm-hmm. Those parents that were there watching what their kids did were proud. Mm-hmm. I'm done.
All right, thank you very much. Well, I joined you on all those little adventures, and we also wanted to discuss the North St. Paul picnic for all of our employees, and just how thankful we are to everybody at North St. Paul and their employees, and just being able to walk around and talk to everybody, and it's just a great group. So it was my pleasure to be able to attend, and I know the rest of us too. It's we're very lucky, and we're grateful. So I thank you, everybody.
Do you mind if I add one more thing, Mayor?
Sure.
We did have a successful paper shredding event last week up there at Casey Lake. We had a constant flow of people, so it was well attended, and people were thankful and glad that we did it again this year. I think last year was our first year as a separate event, and they look forward to keeping it. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I have a call for adjournment.
So moved.
So moved, Councilmember Cole.
Second.
Second, Councilmember Schweer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. Our next meeting is September 5th. Thank you. Appreciate it. Going